The Unbreakable Self, How Pain Creates Power and Reinvention. The Comeback Blueprint, audiobooks Breakthrough Tone by Oliver Maldonado, Intro. The moment everything collapses. Everyone has a moment where life drops them to their knees. For some, it's betrayal. For some, it's heartbreak. For some, it's financial ruin, failure, humiliation, or losing everything that once felt certain. But no matter the cause, the collapse feels the same. A shattering of identity, a ripping away of the life you thought you were building, a violent ending to the story you believed you were living. And when you're in that moment, when it feels like the world is burning down, there's only one truth that matters. Your old life is gone, but you are not. This audiobook is for the ones who lost themselves, for the ones who forgot who they were, for the ones who gave everything to something or someone who couldn't hold it, and for the ones who are ready, finally, to rise again. This is the blueprint for the comeback, not a return to who you were, but a return to who you were always supposed to become. Prove it. Prove you're serious. If you're not, stop this audiobook now and find some weaker one and keep making excuses and feeling sorry for yourself. But if you're serious, prove it now by taking the first step to programming your mind. Make the commitment to take this small yet powerful subconscious action and subscribe now and hit the like button. This is a metaphorical mental program command that will send your brain and the universe the proof that you're ready to begin. Chapter 1. The collapse wasn't your ending, it was your awakening. Most people think they're breaking when they're actually being rebuilt. Pain doesn't destroy you. It strips away the parts of you that were never going to take you where you needed to go. It removes illusions. It removes weakness. It removes distractions. It removes dependence. Collapse doesn't happen because you're cursed. It happens because you were living with structures that couldn't support your destiny. And when those structures fall, it feels like you're dying. But what's actually dying is the version of you that was too small for the life you're meant to build. Your heartbreak, it woke you up. Your setback, it removed your blinders. Your loss, it forced you to see your own strength. Sometimes the universe doesn't ask you to let go. It rips things out of your hands because you refuse to release them. The collapse was not cruelty, it was correction. And now that you're standing in the ashes, there is only one direction left, forward, but not as the person who fell, as the person who rises. Chapter 2. The comeback begins with a decision, not a miracle. People wait for motivation. They wait for clarity. They wait for signs, alignment, perfect timing, or someone to save them. But the comeback does not begin when you feel ready. It begins when you decide you're done staying broken. There is a moment, quiet, internal, where you finally say, I don't want to live like this anymore. That moment is everything. You don't have to know how you'll rebuild. You don't have to know what the next chapter looks like. You don't have to feel strong, confident, or healed. You only need one thing, a decision. Because decision creates direction. Direction creates movement. Movement creates identity. Identity creates destiny. Your comeback doesn't require a miracle. It requires you to stop waiting for one. Chapter 3. The identity you lost was never the real you. Pain feels like losing yourself. You look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. You wonder how you got here, how you let things slip, why you tolerated so much, why you stayed, why you loved so deeply, why you ignored the warnings, why you walked into the fire willingly. But here is the truth no one teaches. You didn't lose yourself. You lost the version of you that was built on survival, attachment, and longing. The real you never left. They were buried under obligations, illusions, hopes, fears, and the weight of someone else's story. Reinvention isn't becoming a new person. It's removing everything that isn't you. What's left is who you were always meant to be. Clear, focused, disciplined, unattached, purpose-driven, Unbreakable. You didn't lose yourself. You lost the illusion, and illusions should be lost. Chapter 4. Pain is fuel when you refuse to die in it. People run from pain, hide from it, drown it out, numb it, ignore it, pretend they're fine. But the comeback requires something counterintuitive. You must use the pain. Pain is the most powerful motivator on earth when you refuse to let it cage you. There is a version of you that only wakes up when everything hurts. A version that doesn't negotiate. A version that doesn't overthink. A version that stops apologizing. A version that says, if I survived that, there is nothing in this world I can't build. Pain isn't your enemy. Pain is your ignition. It reminds you, I will never go back to that place again. The comeback begins when you convert suffering into strength. Chapter 5. What they did to you is not who you are. Maybe someone betrayed you. Maybe someone lied. Maybe someone made you feel small, unseen, replaceable, unwanted, unworthy. That pain is real, but it is not your identity. What broke you was not the event itself, but the meaning you attached to it. You may have believed you weren't enough because someone couldn't love you correctly. You may have believed you weren't worthy because someone couldn't meet your loyalty. You may have believed you were weak because you stayed longer than you should have. But the truth is simpler. You were strong enough to give deeply, strong enough to fight for something, strong enough to keep loving even while hurting. Your strength became your vulnerability. Your vulnerability became your lesson. Your lesson became your power. What they did is their story. Who you become next is yours. Chapter 6. Detachment. The superpower that changes everything. The reason people break the same way repeatedly is because they stay attached to the past. Attached to the version of themselves that tolerated too much. Attached to the person who hurt them. Attached to the fantasy of what could have been. Attached to the fear of starting over. Attached to the story that they are broken. The comeback requires detachment. Detachment is not coldness. Detachment is clarity. It is the understanding that you don't need who walked away. You don't need who didn't choose you. You don't need the chapter that ended. You don't need the version of you that lived there. You need only the version that is rising now. Detachment returns your power. And power is the foundation of every reinvention. Chapter 7. The Blueprint for Reinvention. A comeback is not random, it's not luck, it's not one day at a time. It's a blueprint, predictable, repeatable, and structured. Here is the framework. 1. Identity reconstruction. Decide who you are now, not who you were, not who they said you were, not who your pain convinced you to be. Who are you choosing to become? 2. Standards over feelings. You don't rebuild your life by waiting for emotional permission. You rebuild by acting according to standards, not moods. 3. Systems over motivation. Motivation is unreliable. Systems are consistent. Morning structure, evening structure, work structure, self-care structure, boundary structure. Systems build the new you. 4. Discipline over desire. Desire is a spark. Discipline is the engine. 5. Purpose over people. Your future doesn't require approval. It requires direction. When people become the center, you lose yourself. When purpose becomes the center, you become unstoppable. 6. Isolation over distraction. The comeback requires a season where you disappear from noise and reappear with a kingdom. 7. Action over excuses. Excuses end when identity begins. Chapter 8. Rebirth is not pretty, but it is necessary. Reinvention is messy. It's crying in private. It's doubting yourself at 2 a.m. It's rebuilding your confidence day by day. It's learning to trust your voice again. It's catching yourself slipping back into old patterns and correcting course. It's fighting the urge to go back to what broke you simply because it's familiar. But rebirth is not meant to be pretty. It's meant to be powerful. You don't rise clean. You rise covered in the ashes of everything you burned away, and that is what makes the comeback real. Stop the insanity, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Part 2, 350 words. Audiobooks, breakthrough tone. No fluff, no filler, pure psychological transformation. Chapter 9. The real source of insanity. Looped emotions. You don't repeat behaviors because you're weak. You repeat them because your emotions repeat first. Every destructive pattern begins as an emotional loop. Shame, avoidance, more shame, anger, reaction, regret, anger, fear, hesitation, missed opportunities, more fear, loneliness, bad choices, deeper loneliness. These loops generate the same decisions, which produce the same outcomes, which reinforce the same identity. This is the real insanity cycle. You are not fighting habits, you are fighting emotional inertia. Until you interrupt the emotion that starts the loop, the behavior will always return. So the formula becomes: interrupt the emotion, disrupt the habit, break the cycle. This is why discipline alone fails. You can't white-knuckle your way out of emotional gravity. You must understand the emotional script you keep obeying. You must attack the origin of the loop, not the symptoms. Chapter 10. Why logic fails and emotion wins. If logic worked, you'd be done by now. You know what you shouldn't eat. You know who you shouldn't call. You know the habits that destroy your momentum. You know the behaviors that ruin your progress. You know the patterns you swore you'd never repeat. Logical awareness is useless without emotional authority. Your subconscious doesn't respond to logic. It responds to pain, comfort, fear, validation, rejection, memory, repetition. This means the insanity cycle doesn't begin with a choice. It begins with a feeling. And until the emotional response changes, the behavioral response never will. This audiobook teaches you not just what to change, but how to control the internal sensations that push you into repetition. Once you control the emotion, the insanity ends automatically. Chapter 11. The Insanity Interrupt Method. I am. This is your first real weapon. When the old pattern begins, the craving, the urge, the impulse, the emotional pull, you perform a pattern interrupt at the exact moment your brain is about to run the script. Here's the method. Step 1. Freeze the moment. Pause. Do not move. Do not speak. Do not act. This interrupts the autopilot response. Step 2. Name the loop. Say it out loud or silently. This is the insanity loop beginning. Identifying the loop breaks its unconscious power. Step 3. Shift the body state. Your physiology is tied to your patterns. Change your breathing, posture, movement, or position. Stand up. Square your shoulders. Take a deep, slow breath. Relax your jaw. The insanity loop is tied to a physical state. Changing your body disrupts the pattern. Step 4. Replace with the override. You declare, I choose the future, not the loop. Then, immediately take one action aligned with your new identity. Send the difficult message. Begin the task for 2 minutes. Walk away from the trigger. Put the phone down. Start the workout. Clean the space. This is your pattern override. Do this repeatedly, and the insanity script loses its power. You rewire your behavioral pathways through interruption and replacement. Chapter 12. The Insanity of Comfort. Why you keep going back. You're not addicted to the pattern. You're addicted to the feeling the pattern gives you. Comfort isn't soft. Comfort is dangerous. Comfort tells you, avoid the hard thing. Stay where it's familiar. Be who you've always been. Don't risk the unknown. You can change later. Comfort is the voice that destroys potential. Your brain chooses comfort over upward movement because discomfort feels like danger, even when the discomfort is the gateway to change. This is why your life doesn't change. You are choosing short-term emotional safety over long-term transformation. If you want to stop the insanity, You must make comfort uncomfortable. You must become allergic to stagnation. You must associate comfort with pain instead of relief, and growth with freedom instead of fear. Chapter 13. The Identity. Death you keep avoiding. Every cycle continues because you're afraid of losing the version of you that created it. Even if your identity is hurting you, even if it's limiting you, even if it's humiliating you, it's familiar, and the brain prefers familiar suffering over unfamiliar freedom. This is why people stay in toxic relationships, dead-end jobs, unhealthy lifestyles, destructive coping mechanisms, predictable frustration. Because changing the behavior isn't the hard part. Changing the identity is. You must allow the old self to die, not slowly, not emotionally, ruthlessly. Say it with clarity. The version of me that lived this cycle is gone. Identity death is the doorway to identity rebirth. Without it, the insanity continues. Chapter 14. The Breakthrough Triad. Clarity, courage, consistency. To end the insanity, you must master 3 forces in sequence. 1. Clarity. Know exactly what must stop. You cannot end what you refuse to define. Clarity means naming the loop, naming the triggers, naming the emotional starting point, naming the behaviors, naming the consequences. Clarity turns the invisible into the undeniable. 2. Courage. Take the action. The loop avoids. Every insanity loop has one moment of avoided courage. The conversation you won't have, the task you won't start, the boundary you won't set, the truth you won't face, the decision you won't make. Your freedom begins at the point of avoidance. If you want to stop the insanity, you must walk directly into the fear. 3. Consistency. Repeat the new pattern until it replaces the old one. 1 breakthrough means nothing. 10 breakthroughs mean momentum. 30 breakthroughs mean identity change. Consistency is what transforms courage into character and clarity into destiny. The insanity cycle collapses when the new pattern becomes the automatic pattern. That is your real goal. Chapter 15. The Life Reset. 30 days to end the insanity. This is your tactical blueprint. Week 1. Awareness and disruption. Track the loops. Identify triggers. Use pattern, interrupt. Break emotional autopilot. Week 2. Identity override. Create your new identity statements. Practice override actions daily. Rehearse new emotional responses. Refuse the old version of yourself. Week 3. Behavioral rewiring. Install new habits. Attach rewards to desired behaviors. Remove access to triggers. Build environmental support. Week 4. Reinforcement and integration. Strengthen the new identity. Celebrate micro wins consciously. Expand to new areas of growth. Declare the cycle ended. 30 days of intentional rewiring breaks loops that have lasted years. Chapter 16. The final turning point. There is a moment in this process when something shifts. You stop doubting your ability to change. You stop negotiating with weakness. You stop believing the old story. You stop falling for the same emotional traps. You stop expecting a new life from an old identity. You realize, this time is different because I am different. That is the end of insanity. That is the beginning of transformation. That is the rebirth of the person you were meant to become.